Should the Detroit Lions pick Jalen Carter at 6th overall? Find out my thoughts. Cue that intro. It's showtime. Before I get into this video, when I talk about the B gap, when talking about defensive line prospects, guys like Jalen Carter, Brian Brissy, Tyree Wilson, Will Anderson Jr., Kalijah Cansey. For interiors especially, the B gap is between the tackle and the guard, where the A gap is between the center and the guard on either side. If we are talking about edge or defensive ends like Hutch, he got to worry about the C gaps and D gaps, or outside the blocking tight end, or outside the offensive tackle opposite of the blocking tight end, or the extra lineman in some cases. So now that we got that out the way, let's get into Jalen Carter. Before we truly get into Jalen, our defensive line coach is John Scott Jr. Our defensive coordinator is Aaron Glenn. So John Scott Jr. came from Penn State, and Jalen Carter is 6'3", 309 pounds. Yes, I'm adding the extra 9 pounds that he came into Pro Day with, but roughly about 300 pounds. So 6'3", 309. He's a junior out of college, out of Georgia University. He's 22 years old by the time the season starts. Now, with Jalen Carter, he is more of a B-gap pass rusher, and he's also a two-time national championship champion. He likes to win with power, versatile defensive end. Not much he can work on. The dude is the best defensive tackle since really Quentin Williams that got drafted to the New York Jets. And he would be the best defensive tackle Detroit Lions would have had since really Ndamukong Suh with the 2nd overall pick back in the 2010 draft. Now, with Jalen Carter, I do understand a lot of fan base does not really want this guy here. He has all the off-the-field issues. He has legal troubles. He got arrested at the combine. He's linked to a murder, or I'm sorry, not a murder case, but a death of a teammate and a staff member. I get it. He's linked to a lot of negative things, as well as alcohol, speeding, drag racing, whatever you want to call it. I understand he's linked to these, horrendous things. And my prayers go out to everybody that's involved in that situation. I know it's a little bit nasty right now. And as soon as they get things situated, hopefully everything kind of gets brought to light. But my condolences and prayers go out to all that is involved. Getting back to Jalen, he's about to be 22 years old when the season starts. I remember back when I was 21, 22 years old, I was stupid. I was the most stupidest kid you would ever meet. Super wet behind the ear, thought my stuff didn't stink, and, I got a little bit of an ego, and I thought my stuff couldn't stink at that point. I get it. It's a learning growth process with it. You learn from your mistakes. Everybody deserves a second chance. Things of that nature. Now, if he's not a Titus Young type of player, I could teach something like that. I can't teach somebody in the Titus Young situation. We don't have to get into that. That's in the past. Hopefully it stays in the past. Hopefully we don't have nothing that ever comes remotely close to something like that. And that's why the Detroit Lions don't really touch guys with a checkered background or a sketchy background. Might be into some issues. They like the quote unquote choir boys. They like the guys that you don't got to worry about. Hey, just get onto the field. That's all you got to worry about. Everything else takes care of itself. That's the guys that the Detroit Lions like. And I know talking about a Jalen Carter to Detroit is kind of stretching that a little bit because of, obviously, the legal issues that he is right now going through. Hopefully everything is, like I said, brought to light and everything's taken care of now. He did plead no contest, and he got some probation and community service, avoided jail time, things of that nature. So with that being said, if he is there and he could prove to Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell prior to being drafted to the Detroit Lions, I'm perfectly okay with that. Like I said, he is the best defensive tackle in this draft class. and it's not even close for a number 2. So with that being said, if he can prove himself to Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell and they give the okay and they go out and select it, I am perfectly fine with that because the talent is there and it's not even close for a number 2. Like if this would have been a loaded defensive tackle room, I'd have been like, well, maybe we can wait on Jalen Carter or just take him off our board. Because there's, a 1A, 1B in this draft class. Things of that nature, like I can understand that. And a lot of people put, a guy like Brian Brissy in that category. People put Kalijah Cansey in that category. I personally don't. I would say they're in a tier 2 where Jalen Carter is literally a tier 1. So with that discrepancy, I would still take my chances. But again, he has to prove to Brad Holmes, first and foremost, that what he did at Georgia stays there at Georgia in college. When he comes into the Detroit Lions and gets drafted, he's going to be a new man and a guy that's going to be hungry to prove his worth, to prove that he's, put his past behind him and willing to move forward and grow as a human being. Now, if he can prove that, why are we complaining about Jalen Carter? He is the best guy in this draft for exactly what we need. He fits what we need outside of next to Aleem McNeil perfectly to a T. Why are we complaining about Jalen Carter for some off the field issues? If he can prove to Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes he's good, this ain't never going to happen, a person deserves a second chance. I'm perfectly fine giving a person a second chance as long as they hold down to their word. Because as a man, there's only 2 things that you are held to accountable: your word and your cojones. That's it. And you ain't supposed to break him for nothing. If he can hold to his word, there's no reason why Jalen Carter should not be the 6th overall pick. And it's not even close. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want to help this channel get into the YouTube algorithm, consider clicking that thumbs up because it tells YouTube you like the content that you are watching. It might not be much, but it helps tremendously. If you want to be a part of this growing community, consider clicking the subscribe button, post notification to all so you're notified as soon as I drop another Detroit Lions video. Thank you so much in advance. And with that being said, love you all. I'll see you in the next video because grit don't quit. #1Pride, baby. Peace.